Welcome to episode 320 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I have Chuck Joyner back on the show. How you doing, Chuck? Glad you're here.
I'm great, Dave. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to do this. With people that I kind of think I recognize.
Yeah. This is probably one half of the Mac Voices Live crew, I would say. Also here, making a return appearance, been a bit, but I'm glad you're here, Ben Roethig. How you doing, Ben?
I am not sick for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we're glad you're here. We'll catch up on a lot of the Apple talk we always do here. And Marty Jencius, you are here. Let's welcome you. How you doing, Marty?
It's been a long day, but that's what Thursdays are. And so that makes Thursday nights even more enjoyable when we get to do this.
Yeah, great. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Dave, it's great to see you. It's great to see all of you, actually.
Yes, it really is. And boy, I just think every week I start doing the show notes for the week, and I seem like not a lot, but then there's all kinds of stuff to talk about this week. A lot of beta discussion, and as well as some new releases that we're going to hit on. Might touch a little bit on AppleCare. A lot of news, and getting ready for the announcements that are coming. We'll talk about that a little bit, but let's jump right into the beta world here for this week. Apple did seed the 7th beta of iOS and iPadOS 18 to the developers, and the public beta is also available. Again, not a lot of things that really talk about it. It seems like Apple's ramping things up and getting ready to drop this pretty soon here. So you have iOS 18, and that's beta. That's the beta 7, as well as iOS 18.1, which I believe is beta 2 for those who have devices that can support that with the AI. So Ben, how's it been working for you this week as you upgraded?
Pretty good. A lot of the stuff that wasn't working in earlier betas is now working, which isn't surprising because if this isn't the release candidate, I almost said gold master.
Yeah.
If this isn't the release candidate, it's not far off.
I think Mark Gurman made that comment that this looks more or less like it is like a release, almost like a release candidate. And then they're way ahead schedule on this, which is interesting. But how about you, Marty? How's it been working for you?
It's been working fine. Around this Gold Master, I saw something today that said the beta release was an A release at the end of the number. They have an A, and that's pretty much a signal that there may be one or two more beta releases before they get to the Gold Master.
Yes, this is the second consecutive A release.
Can I just say that I've had no trouble at all with the betas?
Yeah, because you don't do them.
I don't run them, so it's all the problems you guys talk about, and it's like, why do you put yourselves through this?
Chuck, I don't have problems with the betas. I absolutely don't have problems with the betas. And I don't know if I have some special immunity or something, but they just do what they're going to do. I never have issues with software.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I hear things like that, Marty, and I'm tempted, that's when it's like, it's pulling me in. It's like, no, because some people seem to be just like you, just super lucky, and other people seem to have problems, and it becomes a huge time suck. And that's something I can't afford right now. So, whatever works for you is the important part.
Yeah. So anyway, good, some good feedback on that, and we'll see where it goes here. The 7th beta of watchOS 11 has been out, as well as tvOS got some releases. Not much really to talk about there. So we continue on here with a lot of the new features. We'll definitely we'll continue to review them and to talk about them. And then once it drops, we're going to really go dig deep onto a lot of the great things that Apple's doing with iOS 18. The couple new things that were released here. The Apple Maps had some new releases. So what's new with Apple Maps? They've added some hiking trails as well as custom routes and search here and saving favorites. As far as working those trails, as well as the library is set for, you can save some content for different locations. You can take notes within maps, so it can give you some notes of some of the trails and such that you're going on that. So nice to see that they're expanding upon Apple Maps and doing some great things with that as far as that goes. Also, I want to talk a little bit about we've talked about some of the new features in the phone app in iOS 18. One of the big things we need to talk about is being able to record phone calls with Apple Intelligence. You can, and then after placing it or answering a phone call, after running iOS 18, you can now initiate a recording that gives you an audio copy of the call, and that does, of course, warn the person that once that you start recording, it will do that. Being able to transcribe and summarize phone calls with Apple Intelligence is going to be available, and you'll also be able to save those. The notes will be saved automatically and then transcribed. Then you can search your call history, being able to do that. And if you have two SIMs in your phone, in your iPhone, such as personal work purposes, you can swap them between them using a control center toggle, which is pretty awesome. I'm telling you, control centers excites me every day with some of the changes they're having here. In prior versions of iOS, you had to change numbers using the settings app. To swap numbers, just go to the control center, navigate then to connectivity controls, and then you long press on cellular data, go through that. Does some context suggestions as you're typing numbers. So that's cool. And we talked about this before. I think of the T9 dialing. I don't know why anybody would have to be doing that anymore. So they've done some really enhanced things they're adding in iOS 18 for the phone app, which I'm pretty pleased to see, since they've pretty much ignored that for many years. So that's definitely interesting to see where that goes here. So, Marty, Vision Pro did release a 7th beta for Vision OS 2. What's new with that?
It's really hard to find what the changes are in Vision Pro, because they talk about them in all these articles like they're happened or they're going to happen. They really don't define what's new in each thing. They just kind of say these are all the things that'll happen when it's finally released. Now, the discussion this week was about Mac Virtual Display.
Okay.
And everybody's waiting and waiting and waiting for Mac Virtual Display to really start with the large panoramic screen with with the displays or multiple displays across or pages across the view. And the only stuff that looked like it was done internally on it apparently was there. If you're using Vision Pro now, what you're looking at is a flattened screen in front of you. And they're trying to look on how to make that give that curvature so you can have a long screen. Like if you're sitting in a theater, you have the sense that it's curving around you. And that's going to take some more programming that's going to be a little bit different. The other frightfully scary rumor was when they talk about it coming later this year, it doesn't necessarily mean it comes with 2.0. It might come with 2.1. So that's some of the concerns that they have not. We've expected to see it by now. We anticipate 2.0 will close up out of beta, and it might be that we don't see the Mac Virtual Display until the next release or the next beta release of the standard 2.0.
Okay. All right.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
That doesn't surprise me at all either.
Saying later this year. I'm sorry, Dave, I'm talking right over you.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Apple saying anything is later this year is their code for whatever update you're expecting it in. That's not it. It's going to come in a later release by the end of December. So don't expect it in 2.0.
Yeah. So in these articles, when they talk about travel mode is now available for trains, it already is. It wasn't something that came out with the 7th beta. When they talk about guest user profiles saved for 30 days, it already is. When they talk about customizable apps where you can move them from page to page, that came out with the first beta release of 2.0. So it's not really clear what's new with it, just that we're getting really close to having a closed up version of 2.0.
Yeah, so we can finally get onto it and then get everybody else using it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Another interesting topic here. Apple did they've released Apple Music onto the web. Well, they've also now added Apple Podcasts to on the web. They announced this earlier this week that the podcast on the web feature, which will work basically on all the main browsers, Safari, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox on Macs, PCs, and other devices. The podcasts on the web allow you to search for, browse through, and listen to podcasts with access to Up Next Queue and Library when you sign in with your Apple account. So it does let you browse without your Apple account. I just noticed here. So and with this, as well as being able to sign in with your account, so you'll be able to look at your library and want to be able to listen here. You just go to podcasts.apple.com and if you have the podcast apps installed on the iPhone, iPad, or Mac, the website will open the app automatically rather than directing you to the web. Since it wasn't signed in, it looks like I was able to do it from Firefox. So, and then of course, the Maps app was also just added. This comes a month after the Maps app was added to the web too. Chuck, what do you think about this with the podcast app? And I'm not surprised Apple's doing this.
No, I'm not either, Dave. I'm really happy about it, just simply because it's one more place that folks can listen to podcasts that has an Apple orientation to it. So everybody on this show should be happy about that. I don't think it's quite as fully featured yet, especially with things like transcripts and a few other of the at least theoretically more esoteric features. Maybe that'll get there, maybe not. Maybe it'll be a little more of a promotion to use the Apple Podcasts app as opposed to one of the third-party apps. But there just are no downsides to this as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
You want a service that you have created to be used by everyone. You need to make it platform agnostic. Mm-hmm. And the easiest way to do that is by offering it through a web interface. And then if you need to create platform-specific apps later on, fine. But I think this is Apple finally getting on getting on board with the strategy of we need to be on every device, just like Microsoft has been doing for years now. And this is just part of that strategy.
Yep. Ben, how about you?
Look, I mean, if we excuse me, if we look at what the second largest moneymaker for Apple is right now, it's services, not hardware. So it makes sense that they would start to get their services so it can be, used by all sorts of other users.
Yep. And last word on this for Marty.
I mentioned it on Chuck's show. The transcription is not there yet. And for me as an educator, if I assign a podcast and I've got a person who is deaf in my class, having a transcript is real important in terms of equal access. Maybe that'll happen. I hope it'll happen. I mean, it's already available to them. They're already doing it. I think that would be really cool. But the other thing I notice about it is having a Mac desktop app that's a podcast app has a different feel and a different interface than the web version of the app. The web version of the app feels like it's a website with tabs for the shows that I want to listen to. And that's a lot different than going through an app and drilling down to find what I want to listen to in order to pull it up, or being given suggestions of what it thinks I want to listen to next. So different interface, different, you're going to have to look at different places to find things, but the feel of the app, of the service on the web will attract me. It's just like another web page that I have open with some options on it.
Yep. All right. So a couple other topics here. We missed you on Tuesday to talk about this topic, so I'm having on here for this is all good for Jeff here. iPad illustration app Procreate has condemned generative AI. They announced that this week that they have no plans of bringing generative AI to its software, setting itself apart from many of the competitors who have embraced the technology. The decision comes at a time where many companies are in the digital art space, such as Adobe, are rapidly integrating AI capabilities into their products and services, and Procreate's stance is grounded to a commitment to preserving what it describes as the humanity of creative work. The company issued a statement on its website that expressed strong reservations about the impact of generative AI in the creative process. And it goes on to talk about that. So open up this right to you, Jeff, because we really wanted to hear about your thoughts on this, and I know you use this app too.
Well, first, Chuck, sorry I ended up having to miss Mac Voices Live this week. And Dave, thank you for including this topic so that I can share my thoughts. When I first heard the news that Procreate was doing this, I was very happy. They're making what is a very bold stance, even though it shouldn't be a bold stance, but here we are. Generative AI, I think, has taken off in a way where for some use cases, it has been twisted into a thing where it is not your assistant, it is your creator. And I feel that the place for generative AI is not to be the actual creator of content. It can be a tool to help you as you're looking, say, for inspiration, or you need ideas for how to phrase something, but this shouldn't be the thing that actually creates the finished piece for you. And I will go so far as to say I think in creative apps like Procreate and Illustrator and Photoshop and Affinity Photo, all these apps, they should not be including tools that generate the actual art for you. They should be including AI tools that make it easier for you to do the things that you need to do. An example would be you have a photograph, it's the perfect shot, but there's a dog that's rubbing its butt on the grass in the background. You don't need the dog in the shot. So,
or in some cases, Jeff, you want the dog in the shot and you want to erase everything else.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you need to erase, this is a place where AI tools and generative AI can be useful, because then you can say, all right, I need to remove all the people from this photo so that I only have the dog. And then it can figure out what all the people are, and then figure out what the background is supposed to be and remove those people for you and help you save time. You may still need to do some cleanup, but really what it's doing is automating, in a way, tools that you already have available in apps like Photoshop, because you can already do like a smart remove and fill. Yeah. So that's where I think these tools should be used, not in the actual creation of the finished piece. So taking what is oddly at this point a very strong and bold position, I am there with them, and I am all on board. Good for Procreate for not going just headstrong where angels fear to tread into shoehorning a technology into their tools just to say they have it.
Oh, may want to add anything to that?
I want to ask Jeff
go ahead,
Marty. Sorry. Well, I want to ask Jeff the question I wanted to ask him Tuesday night, and that is, do you think Procreate is putting themselves at a disadvantage by not including this? I mean, it strikes me a little bit as they're making a very bold statement, and I respect the statement, but I wonder if they're putting themselves at a competitive disadvantage, especially if they have to capitulate later.
The way Ben is shaking his head should be an indication that he's actually psychic and can read my mind. I think that there will be an insignificant number of potential customers who will not use Procreate because it can't make the art for them. I think most people that are in this space actually using these tools professionally will not have a problem with this at all. It will not be a showstopper, and it's not going to push them away from Procreate. The people that are using Procreate already are so hardcore. I like some of the serious art that you see that's being created. Holy crap. there's just so much you can do with this app, and it is so powerful. These people are not going to leave because they suddenly feel like they're at a disadvantage. It's not like they can't make the art they're already making. They just don't have the crutch, if you will, to have something that's actually making it for them.
Okay. It's the thing that strikes me as an interesting choice. The two levels. The fact that they've made the choice not to include it, but they've also made the choice to trumpet it so loudly, as opposed to saying, softening it down, and just saying, we're not going to do that, or we're not ready to do that, or we're waiting and seeing, or it just, again, it felt like the message could have been softened, but they seem to be playing to a particular audience. And I sincerely hope that it works for them.
I think it'll work just fine. Now, at some point, I could see them adding in AI tools that go beyond things that they're doing today, but in a way where it's like the example I was giving, where you're doing a smart select and replace sort of thing, but not something where it's actually creating the art for you. And there will be some people that if they go down that path, will say, oh, look, they had to backpedal. No, that's a totally different thing. Using AI and ML to streamline the things you already do is very different from using a generative model to actually create the piece.
So,
Marty,
Jeff,
Mhm.
can I push a little bit on this? I'm sorry.
No, please do.
I'm wondering, when you say the creative element to create the art. So
Mhm.
I'm not a very good painter, but
Mhm.
would, if I have a vision in my head of what I want on a canvas,
Mhm.
and I had a AI option to say, I'd like a tiny little tree down in the lower right-hand corner of this. And it was able to produce a tiny little tree. And then I said, okay, I'd like a bridge that goes over water that is cutting through the middle of the picture. Where is it my creation and where is it AI's creation? And because I don't have the talent to be able to draw the bridge, but I have the talent to conceptualize the bridge and have AI do it for me, I'm just trying to figure out where your boundaries are around creativity with that.
That's an awesome question, and
Mhm.
certainly not one that you should apologize for asking. And I do not feel like I'm being put on the spot with that either, because I mean that is a legit question. If I am coming up with the concepts and I am telling a machine, I need you to do this exact thing right here. Is that you creating, or is that you giving a command to a generative model so that it can create a thing? And who has actually created at that point? And I think that we still have this kind of nebulous area that we will be refining over time, because there will be people that right now will say, well, you have the vision, you know what you're conceptualizing, and so you used the generative system to create that thing. You didn't create it, you told the generative model what to create. And then there will be other people that will say, you conceptualized and you have the ability to give a command to a system to create the thing that you have conceptualized, therefore you are the creator. And so that's both ends of that spectrum. And I have a feeling that where we will ultimately land with that is somewhere in between. And how I said, well, look, what if you're using AI to do a smart replace? Okay, did I just fall into the thing where I'm no longer creating and I'm using the technology to create for me, because I didn't manually cut the person out myself and then go in and build the grass and the bushes so that it looked like it was part of the original thing? So I'm sorry that today I cannot give you a firm, here's the line in the sand answer. I think we have a way to go with this. And really, I mean, look how new all of this is for us still. It's advancing and evolving so quickly.
Yep. And I would like to make one last point here.
Please.
Look, I am not Jeff. I am not an artist. This Procreate is not the tool for me. And you know what? That's all right. It's okay to have an app that is for a specifically targeted user base and not for everybody. For what I do, for Pixelmator works just fine with my complete lack of artistry being able to create featured images for a website. Just get the tool that is all right for you. And it's, like I said, it's okay that they're saying we are for serious artists only.
You know what? Pixelmator is a fracking awesome tool. Don't sell yourself short, Ben. I see people creating amazing art with Pixelmator and Affinity Photo and Illustrator, or excuse me, Affinity Photo and Design, and Linea Sketch. So it's about finding the tool that's right for you. And for you, Pixelmator might be the right tool, and Procreate may not be.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, great discussion. I knew we would get some good conversation on this topic, and it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I mean, will other similar type applications do that? Do you think, Jeff, that someone might look at this and say, because obviously the big boys like we just talked about, AI is they're diving head deep into it, and a lot of companies are. But this is interesting to see that this company did this, but not too many others have.
Yeah, and there are a lot of companies. I like how you said they're just diving in. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that they are throwing stuff, in some cases garbage, into their apps and services just to say that they have AI. Yep. And if you're adding that in to your product just so you can say you have it, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. And that's a disservice to your customers and to your development teams. They should be working on features that bring actual value to the customers, and the customer should be pissed off if they're getting stuff thrown in just so that someone can say it's there.
Yep. All right. Another topic here I wanted to touch on, as I know, Jeff, we're going 2 for 2 here tonight for you, is LumaFusion. I know you love that app, and they did come up with 5.0, which brings speed ramping and enhanced keyframing to your iPhone and your iPad. They released that this week, and LumaFusion is it's just now over 5 years old, and I think everybody can be more excited about this update that introducing these powerful features and tools here. So tell us, have you tried these new features in the speed ramping and enhanced keyframing?
I have not, and that's only because I have not had time this week to play around with anything in LumaFusion.
Yep.
And if I'm remembering correctly, speed ramping and enhanced keyframing, those are the paid add-on features. So you get version 5 as a free update, and then for $20, $19.99, you get speed ramping keyframing as an add-on. And this is not the first time that this has happened with LumaFusion. They have rolled out other updates where you get a couple premium features where you pay extra to get those, and it's typically about $19. And I have no problem with this at all. I think this is great. Everyone gets the new version, and if you're someone that needs the new features, for $20 you get them, and it's not a subscription.
Yeah, so one-time fee.
Yeah. Holy crap. This is a professional nonlinear video editing tool that you can buy. Like if you buy the base application plus all of the add-on packs, you are still under $100 for a pro level tool, it's bonkers.
Anybody else here use LumaFusion? I don't think you do, Chuck, but have you tried it?
Oh yeah, I've tried it. And I love it. I just don't produce Mac voices with it. But I can tell you this, I did talk to Terry and Chris at NAB this year about some of this. If everything goes well, I'll have them on Mac Voices next week to talk more in detail about it. But
Nice.
I like Jeff's explanation of the way they do it. They come up with some of these premium features. I mean, the base program is flat out amazing with what they've given you in a touch interface on your iPad. And then they add certain features like these that you may or may not use, that you may or may not need. They may or may not be for you. If they are, you buy the add-in and it's terrific. And if you don't, then you just skip over that one and say, we'll wait for the next one. So this is one of my favorite iOS developers because they just have done so much with what they've been given. And when the M series chips came along, they did even more. So if you have any interest in playing with video editing, this is a very inexpensive way to do it. And the value that they put into the software is just flat out amazing.
Yeah, the core app is what, like $30?
Yeah, something crazy. Yeah, for a pro level app.
Right. And I started using it version 1, version 2 long ago. And I don't think they've ever had a paid upgrade or you have to rebuy the app for a new version.
Absolutely not.
Whatever I paid initially, which I'm guessing was $30, that's been it. Except every time the new premium features come out, another $20, another $20. But still, I guarantee you, I have paid less than $100 to have everything.
Marty, Ben, you want to add anything else?
Nope, it's a really great app, and the iPad version does work on the Mac as well, right?
It does, but limited what it can do, right? I mean, it does the same thing. It's just harder to navigate, I would think.
Right. Yes, because you're trying to emulate touch gestures with a trackpad or some other pointing device.
Yeah, but I mean, end of the day, this is the app everybody wishes Final Cut for iPad was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do most of my editing on my Mac, not on my iPad. So I'm using Premiere, sometimes Final Cut Pro. I haven't tried to do video editing on a iPad yet, but maybe this is worth sticking my feet into to do it.
You know, Marty, for me, I got into it when a friend who at the time they were working for Apple and they were making videos that were being used like for I don't even know what, but it was stuff that he was doing as part of his job. And he goes, "So what are you using for video editing?" And I told him, I'm jumping around between different apps. I just can't find the one that fits right. And he says, "Let me show you something." And he shows me LumaFusion, and that was it. I was hooked, and I stopped trying to find the right video editing tool for the Mac because for me it just didn't exist, but it was there on the iPad. So from that day forward, all I've been doing is video editing on an iPad. Excuse me, all of my video editing is done on an iPad. Out of the words, wrong order.
And Jeff, I'll throw one other thing too. If you're not editing video, but you're editing audio, you still might want to take a look at this because it has a lot of great tools for just audio. So don't overlook it as an audio editor that just happens to do video, and maybe it'll drag you into the video world. And Marty, I would tell you definitely, since Vision Profiles is doing video now, definitely throw it into Luma and play with it a little bit. Yeah. It's a different editing. I can't talk tonight. It's a different editing experience. Terry from Luma would tell you that it's more intimate, and that sounds a little strange, but once you do it, I get it. I completely understand it. That because you're reaching out and you're touching your video and making those changes as opposed to manipulating a mouse or a trackpad.
Okay.
So
I'll take a shot at it.
Please, everybody go check out LumaFusion. It's an amazing app. I found this to be fascinating. I thought it'd be a good topic is about what is the most popular service for Apple in 2024. And I don't think we are going to be very surprised with that. That statement is the fact that paid iCloud storage overwhelmingly remains the most popular Apple service in the United States. And this is according to a new report from Consumer Intelligence Research Partners, which I think are relatively reputable. Nearly 2/3 of Apple customers in the United States opt for paid iCloud storage, surpassing other services like Apple Music and Apple TV Plus and AppleCare in terms of user adoption. In comparison with Apple Music and Apple TV Plus, they have achieved moderate penetration rates across Apple customers with 42 and 32% adoption respectively, whereas AppleCare, the company's extended warranty service, sees lower adoption, about 17% of iPhone buyers. That's interesting. I didn't think that would be that low for opting additional coverage. So you look at, they have a great chart here and showing that 64% of iCloud. Of course, we know, we talked about many times that you've got, in fact, we talk about the last quarterly results, how much significant contributions to Apple's services revenue, which was just really, really, really high. So iCloud services go across from 99 cents a month for 50 gigs, $2.99 a month for 200 gigs, and $10 a month for 2 terabytes. And you can also go with the bundle, which we've talked about. I always continue to promote that. Apple One bundle is amazing, which also includes, you can get Apple News Plus as well as Fitness Plus and Arcade. So no surprise here with this stuff, but I think Apple's going to continue to evolve here, and I think Apple's long overdue for some new services. Honestly, but what do you guys think? I'll start with you, Chuck. iCloud, we all have it. I think you're crazy not to have it.
Listen, absolutely, because if you take photos, you want your photos backed up, you want your iOS devices backed up. The iCloud is the basis for sharing applications and different different applications data between devices. And so, absolutely. I guess I want to take this and turn it just a little bit. And I'm so glad Kelly's not here because we'd end up having a knockdown drag out. But there are a lot of folks that say, well, Apple should offer more and Apple should lower the prices and everything.
Right.
And you look at this and say, why? Why would they do that when the customers always vote with their wallets first. And they voted with their wallets and they say, we're willing to pay this because the service is so good. And it's so essential for the whole Apple integrated experience. So I admit I was a little surprised that this was number one. And like you, Dave, I would have thought AppleCare, especially on the mobile devices, would have come in a bit higher. But that said, it makes perfect sense to me because it does add so much value. It's not just raw cloud storage. It is so much more. And once you wrap your head around that fact, it suddenly becomes a lot more valuable and a lot easier to see that payment on your credit card every month.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Jeff? I mean, I know some of these surveys you kind of like question, but I think this seems pretty legit as far as iCloud and its adoption rates.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Chuck said in a much more eloquent way what I was going to say, and what I was going to say was, well, now you know why Apple's not going to add more RAM to their computers or more storage to their computers, because we're all buying iCloud. And I think there is some truth to that. And Chuck, I think you're right. We speak with our wallets. And if people were not willing to pay the price, Apple would either have to lower the cost or add more storage to devices. Yep. And they're not seeing a need to do that. I wouldn't have thought this was the most popular Apple service. But when I see this, I'm actually not surprised. So yeah, this is the cheapest way to have peace of mind for an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple Watch, because you're backing up everything. If you're doing it right, you're backing up everything to your iCloud account. And man, I cannot think of less expensive and more useful insurance policy for my mobile data. And I've got everything backed up everywhere else too.
Right.
But first time you go into an Apple store with something wrong with your iPhone and they have to do a full factory reset or they have to give you a new phone and you just put in your Apple ID and everything starts dumping onto it. It's like, it doesn't matter what it costs. This just saved my butt.
Yep. Marty, how about you?
Been using cloud services with Apple as soon as they came out, I started using them. They've gotten remarkably better. I kind of echo what Jeff says. It's if you have more than one device, and even if you have one device, you need to have cloud service. And there's some questions about this survey for me and the results. Like some of these are paid additional services. I don't think we pay for Apple Podcasts. They just come as part of the deal, part of the package.
Well, there are paid podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, there are paid podcasts. Yeah, you're right. And I'm surprised 27% in terms of Apple News. I should say, that people are using Apple News. And I would just like to get the figures on how many people are using Apple One, which incorporates a lot of these. And, if you look at these, you're going 27% for this, 35% for this. But if they have Apple One, how does that figure into all of these different services in terms of considering being a paid service? So I also I'd be curious to, although I don't think we'll ever see this data, Google One and Google services in terms of what percentage of people are actually using those services who own Google products and are running things with Google products. Sort of just as a comparison. I think the Apple ecosystem is a closed garden that people enjoy living in. And I'm not sure Google has that same sort of ethos about it. So seeing how people are using their services and what they're paying for is of interest. One last thing, I look at this and I think of my brother-in-law and sister who never really did stuff on the internet, at least never used or consumed services. And I got them a Roku a couple of years ago. And with Roku, this package came 6 months free of Apple TV. And now they still subscribe to Apple TV. They love it, and they would never have gotten into that service. And I think there are, when we think of the 2/3 that are using it versus the 1/3 that aren't, I think of my brother-in-law and my sister.
Okay. Last word on this, Ben.
I mean, look, Apple does have a bit of a captive audience here, especially with the iCloud storage, but what they give you is a tremendous value.
Yep, absolutely. They really do. Next topic, and I think Ben would appreciate this because it involves Beats devices. Updating AirPods firmware should be as easy as updating Beats devices on Android. Apple did release a firmware upgrade for Beats Studio Pro headphones that were introduced last year with audio sharing. And of course, many users want to try out this new feature as soon as possible, but updating the firmware of Beats headphones or even AirPods from an iOS device is something of a really obscure. On Android, on the other hand, the process is much easier. And we know this. AirPods and Beats firmware updates have been such a mess. You never know when it's going to update. They say just let it connect to the internet and connect to your device and then update. But Apple has already solved. I can't believe I'm even saving this. Apple has solved this on an Android. By Apple providing a Beats app for Android. It lets users manage the settings on the Beats devices. And with this app, you can update the firmware and the accessories with just a tap. So, Ben, what do you think? This is interesting to say the least.
It's embarrassing that the user experience for Apple's own hardware is
Yeah.
better on Android than it is on iOS. They need to get the guys who are making the Android app, get it ported over to iOS, make a version for the AirPods, and
Right.
while they're at it, also make a HomePods app, because
Yeah.
what they have, it don't work.
Yeah. Through the HomeKit. I agree with that. What about you, Chuck? What do you think?
David.
Hold on, I want to go get my popcorn.
Yeah. I'm going to try to stay off the soapbox, but this is an article that just is looking for a reason to complain about something. Okay, so just a couple points. First of all, Dave, to your point, Apple doesn't control the whole widget when it comes to Android, thank God.
Right.
And so they can't implement those same controls, those same distribution models, because it depends on an app on Android. In the iPhone, it's just part of the OS. Okay, so that, in my opinion, that's and from what I know about this, that's why. But I think that once again, we're looking at it as geeks. We want to try the most recent, latest. Oh boy, we can't wait to try this out. And this is Apple's philosophy of making things happen in the background, making them transparent, making them automatic. Go back and reference our iCloud discussion from just a couple minutes ago. And so it's just not that big a deal. It is for us. And Ben, with all respect to you, but you're like me and like David and like Marty and like Jeff, we want to do this because we read it and it's like right away we want to test it out. I don't think the majority of Apple users AirPod users really care that much or notice. They don't follow the news like we do. And so I see this as just, would it be nice to have a switch in there? Yeah, it'd be very nice to say, oh, make sure my AirPods are up to date. Do I think it deserves an app? Absolutely not.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Chuck. You nailed it, man. Okay, so just to offer my perspective on what I agree with what Chuck said, outside of our echo chamber, how many people know or care that there's firmware in their AirPods?
Yeah.
And of those people that do know or care, how many of them really want to have to go and do updates on the thing they jam in their ear to listen to music? And I suspect the number of people that actually really, really feel the need to know what firmware version they're running and to be able to push updates whenever they want, it's us in our echo chamber. So outside of that, it doesn't make sense to offer that as the way you update the firmware on your AirPods. Now, it would be cool if the default was your firmware just updates automatically. I'd be okay with your firmware updates automatically, and there's no way for you to turn that off to manually do it. But we will also give you a button for those of you that really want to force an update to happen, where you can go and push that button and get your firmware faster. But I think most people just don't care. Ben, you are so spot on with the HomePod. Holy crap, Apple. The way you are handling HomePod software and management is embarrassing. And they do need to fix that. But yeah, this whole thing with, so the 9 to 5 article, this is actually just their own editorial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I respect their right to be able to create this piece and publish it and share their feelings. And I also respect my right and Chuck's right to know that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Jeff, I would add only one thing to Jeff's commentary. Jeff, not only do I think a lot of people not know that their AirPods have firmware, I don't think they even know what firmware is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
To take it just to another level.
Yeah. People don't want complicated. The general public doesn't want complicated. They want to buy their iPhone, They want to buy their AirPods. They want to be able to listen to music and podcasts and answer phone calls.
Yep.
And I bet most people don't even know that you have touch gestures on the AirPods to be able to control functions.
Yeah. Final word on this, Marty.
Even before I saw that we had this discussion for tonight, I was looking for stuff for vision profiles and ran across an article that said that Apple had just released a firmware update for AirPods Pro 2. And that was like today.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to chase this thing down. I want to push the button, Chuck. Guilty as charged. And
You can't.
I just couldn't figure out. I mean, it said it happens automatically. It's part of the magical part of being on Apple. When your phone is plugged into a charger and it's sitting around and it's on the same Wi-Fi, or it'll happen automatically. I still want the button. This weekend, I tore down the back part of my room and put some new lighting up and had to unplug everything and plug back in my HomePods. And I could not get them hooked up with HomeKit. And whether they have the latest firmware or not, I don't know. So Ben's comments about HomePods kind of ring home with my experience this week. But I would love a button just because I'm a button pusher.
Okay. A couple news stories before we wrap up here. Apple is now giving customers 45 days to extend AppleCare Plus coverage after expiration. This was announced this week. Apple has increased that period to go to that far. Apple used to allow coverage to be extended for 30 days after the end of the original AppleCare Plus plan, but now they've changed it to 45 days. AppleCare Plus extension support document says that they have now 45 days to sign up for that new AppleCare Plus plan after existing coverage expires, with options of extending plans by 24, 36 months, or even monthly until canceled. So, and they can be extended in most countries around the world, as well as of course, in the United States. So I think this is a good thing, because I have noticed lately that Apple has been allowing you to extend your coverage. Like I did it on an iPhone my wife still had, because I know she was always prone to dropping it and that stuff. Just like I go back to that previous story we talked about, 17% of iPhone users. I just couldn't imagine not having AppleCare on my iPhone. So this is a good thing that you're able to now extend your AppleCare to as long as you choose. I'll start with you, Marty. What do you think?
AppleCare is my lamb's blood on my doorpost. And for those of you who don't understand that reference, you'll have to Google it. As long as I have AppleCare, I never have to take my products in. So I never have to use AppleCare. So it's that vicious cycle of, well, maybe I should drop it. Maybe I shouldn't. They've gotten me pulled into the AppleCare Plus universe, and I have rarely used it. And the times that I brought in devices that needed fixing, I've been lucky enough for them to go, oh yeah, we know that's a problem. We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
So it seduces me every time, and I get those AppleCare bills every month. And at some point I go, enough is enough. The new ones are coming out soon anyways. I don't need AppleCare anymore.
There you go. And the good thing is too, if you trade things in earlier, you get whatever's left on the AppleCare back. They refund it for you. So
yeah,
which is a good thing. How about you, Chuck?
Hey, this is just like insurance. It's like homeowners insurance and auto insurance. You hope you never have to use it, but you still carry it. And so I think this is terrific, because sometimes those days kind of get by you, and this way you have the option to jump back in. The only thing I would just caution, I haven't seen the exact terms of this, but I would bet you probably a bag of popcorn for Jeff, that what would happen if your plan expires. Yes, you have 45 days to re-engage it, but that doesn't mean that the coverage continues during that 45 days. So just be real careful about that.
Yep. How about you, Ben?
Okay, while my compatriots here were giving their spiel, I happened to look up of how much it would cost to repair the screen on my iPhone 15 Pro Max without AppleCare Plus? The answer is $379. What is my basically premium here? Not premium, but copay. If the screen were to get cracked with AppleCare Plus, $30.
Yep. So
Yeah.
they are fair with that.
Yeah,
The external damage.
These things are too expensive not to happen.
I agree. Well, Vision Pro, that's like I know that you had to have bought it on that. I would be nervous. If I wouldn't have something on that. But yeah, I kind of side with you a little bit on Marty. Yeah, you every time you buy an Apple product, you're buying AppleCare, and you like, oh, do I need it? Do I not need it? I've had to use it on Macs in the past. I've used it on iPhones in the past, and I've used it on iPads in the past. So, the Apple Watch, and of course, like Apple TV, I wouldn't buy it. I don't think that's worth the value, even though it's not that expensive. I mean, Apple TVs, how many times? What's the percentage of those fail?
Yeah.
But heavy use items like our iPhones, we're using them daily. Then why you wouldn't want to have the protection just in case something happens? So, and one last story before we wrap up here. People out there just seem to find these bugs in iOS. This iOS bug is causing an iPhone to crash when you type in these 4 characters. Some odd text string that something emerges that allows you to type it in, and it will cause your iPhone to crash with just a few characters. This week, this was a security researcher on Mastodon who found that if you type these characters in the Spotlight search or the app library search, it will crash your iPhone. It is.
I'm gonna see if I crash my iPhone right now.
I did it. It's quote, colon. And as soon as you do it, it does it in the search. When you search, I tried it in the app library. It did not. And I tried it on one that has iOS 18. It doesn't happen. So that just tells you it's a bug in iOS 17. So that's why if you're on 18, you won't see it happen.
So if I pull down on my screen, so I get the search field, and I type,
you do quote, colon.
Whoops. Quote, colon.
And then try to search.
I do not crash.
Yeah. So it's hit or miss. But I did do it on my iPhone, and it did happen. So I just find it fascinating that these types of bugs are found like this. And I mean, I don't think anybody's thinking about, okay, let me type in those characters and see if I can get my iPhone to crash.
Yeah, I tried it earlier and then realized it was a 17 thing and I was running 18. But the article says you just need to type quote,
colon, and then
colon
the next character,
followed by any 4th character.
Yeah. Yep. So I always find it fascinating. Go ahead, John.
Doctor, it hurts when I do this. Doctor then says, don't do that. It's
pretty much. Yep.
How do they find these kinds of bugs? I mean,
that's what I say.
Who's sitting around going, let me see, or who's searching for quote, colon.
My guess is that a lot of these are found by security researchers who are looking for strings that they can enter into a device that can cause like a Stack Overflow or something. Yeah. And as they're looking for potential security flaws, they come across stuff like this where it makes the springboard crash.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, a good way to wrap up the show for this week is that was a lot of great show. Really appreciate you all being here, and we had a blast talking about the topics this week. But let's just go ahead and wrap up. It's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon. It's at intouchwithios at techhangout.social. Support the show by going by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We'd really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe and notified when we are live streaming on Thursday nights, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel. Shout out to Brian and to Cletus and others that were out there tonight. We appreciate it. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you also can watch these live streams, as well as you can watch the past live streams and also listen to the past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. Link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast, and many others. Just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 and Mastodon.cloud. Chuck Joyner, thank you, as always, for being here. We always enjoy having you on the show. Where can people find you?
Dave, thanks for having me, as always. MacVoices.com is where you can find everything I do. As I said, next week, if everything goes as planned, I'll have Terry and Chris from Luma on the show to talk about the new speed ramping for LumaTouch 5. There's just so much stuff coming up that I've got planned and scheduled and all that it's mind-boggling, even to me, and I'm the one that's got to do it. So check us out. Tuesday nights, we do Mac Voices Live with actually everyone on this crew. So if you can't get your fill of them here, come Tuesday nights, and you can then throw tomatoes at them virtually in the YouTube chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. Ben is winding up now. That's good. And on all the socials, or at least all the ones that really count, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Chuck. I'll change order here. Jeff Gamet, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
Well, it's always a treat to get to be here. So thank you for letting me continue to join in. And Chuck, if I'm going to be on a show where people are throwing food at us, I'd prefer to throw tater tots instead of tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
That.
Yeah. All right. So where can people find me? How about social media? J Gamet everywhere. But I just realized that's not actually true. I'm J Gamet everywhere except LinkedIn, where I'm Jeff Gamet. I wonder why I did that. Someone else probably already had J Gamet. Anyhow, but I'm active mostly on Mastodon and Instagram. Excuse me. Then for shows, Chuck Joyner's Tater Tot special on Tuesday evenings, Mac Voices Live, and then here, Dave, with you on Thursdays, In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, Thursdays, The Big Show, Fridays, The Mac Show. And Brian Chaffin and I, we do The Context Machine. And then Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch, where we watch shows that she's seen many times and I have never watched at all. And then we discuss them from our unique perspectives on that. Right now we're doing Stargate SG-1.
Okay, great. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate it. Marty Jencius, always a pleasure having you here as well. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Mastodon at Jencius, Jencius, at mastodon.social. Tuesday nights with Chuck Joyner and Mac Voices, and that's a whole lot of fun for a Tuesday night. And then Thursday, here with In Touch with iOS. And Mondays, we have started producing vision profiles and doing a live stream on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But you can also pick up the podcast version. But the live stream is on YouTube at Vision Profiles, youtube.com/vision profiles. Other podcasts include Circular Firing Squad and Tech Savvy Professor.
Thanks so much. All right, Ben Roethig is back. We're glad you made it back here, and thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me at Ben Roethig on social media. Tuesdays, In Touch with iOS with Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner. Thursdays, In Touch here with Dave Ginsburg. Thursday, Big Show. Friday, Mac Show.
Great. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks everybody in the chat and YouTube. We appreciate you as well. And then until next time, we'll talk again soon.